Hey guys, so I wanted to make a quick video about coloring animations in Clip. So first things first, I've got my frames already in their folders, and I'll show you kind of how they're built. Activate the timeline window, and when I scrub through this you'll see it's a little raccoon diving in the trash for a commission. Now because the trash can is repeated and I just kind of want to give it that wavy cartoon look, but I also didn't want to redraw it every single time, I actually put the trash can on 5 repeating layers, just trace to give it a little bit of wiggle in its own folder, and I've got the character in its own folder as well. So I'm going to go ahead and color the trash can. Now, as far as I know, you have to create an animation folder for your colors and for anything else that you want to do, separate from the line work. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here, make a new animation folder, and I'm going to put that, first of all, I'm going to name it just colors so that I don't lose track of it. And I'm going to go ahead and put that underneath the can. Now I am going to put the colors for both the character and the can in the same on the same layer within this folder, but let's start with the can. So I'm going to select the animation folder for the trash can and go up here to the little lighthouse, which is set reference layer. And now when I go over here to the bucket tool, rather than the normal bucket tool, I'm going to select close and fill. And close and fill is really cool because down here in the subtools section, or the tool properties, you can actually set it to read from your reference layer, which is what we're going to do. It's also a good idea whenever you're using a bucket tool to make sure that your close gap is not the smallest it could be. Go ahead and set that maybe 2 or 3. And that just says that if there's a slight gap in your line work, that it will go ahead and close it. Color margin is how close the reference layer has to be to a pure contrast color. So in this case it's black and white, so we can have a pretty low contrast and it'll be fine. Area scaling is how far outside of the immediate selected area it's going to fill. So right now 2 is fine, unless you're using anti-alias lines, which means that there's no fuzziness. You really want to have at least a little bit of area scaling so that it can go into the lines. And I'll do another video about that if that's something people are interested in. For now, I'm going to go down here to my colors folder and make a new frame. I'm going to take that close and fill, and I'm literally going to lasso around the area with the trash can, and what that's doing is it's looking at the reference layer over here, saying, okay, anything inside the black containing lines we're going to fill with a solid color. Now you will notice that here there is like an area that I don't want to be colored, and I'll have to go back and manually change that. That's just kind of the name of the game, just to make it easier. So then I'm going to more or less do this for the rest of the frames. Now you can see that that didn't work, and I need to up the close gap. It might still not be enough. Oh, there we go. But you can see what close gap does, because there's a huge gap here between my line work. I needed to up that setting in order for it to close. Okay. And I'm just going down here, making a new cell. Now at this point, I have filled all 5. I'm going very quickly because I don't want this to go too long. Go ahead and erase this little area. Here we go. But because there are only 5 layers for the trash can itself, what I'm going to do now is duplicate these so I don't have to do that all again. Though it really wouldn't be too much of a pain in the butt just to do it over for the whole 26 frames that I have. But I also want to show you guys how to tackle the character. So the problem here is that if I set the reference only to the character, sorry, army plane. Thanks, army plane. Okay, if I set it only to reference the character and I turn off the can's line art, you'll see there's no black here for it to distinguish, so that's not going to work here. And it might be that I have to hand draw every single one, or hand fill every single one, which, you know, it's a pain, but it can go a lot faster than you think, especially using something like the lasso fill tool, which you just trace the area and you fill it. But let's see if I can figure out how to do it in a similar fashion with the close and fill. A lot of Clip's cool features are a little bit hidden, or I guess they're not super advertised. You need to play with the settings in order to figure out what works. So I'm going to go back to close and fill, but over here to multiple referencing, let's try all layers. So now it's going to look at black and white on any layer here. Let's see. Yep, there we go. So essentially what it's done is said that this black containing line around the character and this black containing line of the trash can are going to serve as the are going to serve as the reference. Here we go. And again, you're going to have to do that little bit there, but it's worth it. Make a new layer. Here we go. And I can even go in and then try and close this as well. Okay, it's being a little bit tricksy. There we go. So yeah, that's what close and fill does. And you go, if you zoom in, you see that I'm using anti-alias lines, which is pure black and white. If you were using something like a line that's not black, or if you were using a fuzzier line, perhaps this wouldn't work as well. But now I can just go in to every layer, or every frame, and make a new frame and put in these colors. And I assume, what I would do then is go over into the frame, if I were going to color this now, press the lock transparency, and now I can color this character in any way. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you learned something new about Clip Studio. Go out and make something cool. Thanks. Bye.